Some really sad news at the beginning of this week. Obviously, we heard about Cineworld. Cineworld owns Picturehouse, and obviously we've got Picturehouse at Fact. And it feels really strange to say that, because to me, Picturehouse at Fact feels really Liverpool. It feels like it's ours. Like we own a bit of that because we love it so much. It's such a great local cinema, and Fact is an incredible cultural venue in its own right. And with CEO, the director of Fact Liverpool, Nicola Triscott. How are we?
Pretty good. I've been pretty good since we've been open again, but this is, the news that Picturehouse are going to shut temporarily but indefinitely on Friday is really heartrending. It's more than half of our offer in the building. We've got the exhibition spaces that are open, but to not have a full-scale cinema offer, as well as we don't know what's going to happen to the Picturehouse staff. So although, Fact is a separate organisation from Picturehouse, we work really, really closely with the Picturehouse team, and to see them in this level of uncertainty about their futures is heartbreaking. Some of them have been here since the building opened. So so I'm not as upbeat as I'd usually be, Jay.
That's absolutely fine and understandable. It is Liverpool cinema, Fact, in terms of that city centre film offering, to go and see a movie. Fact feels like it's ours. So I think a lot of people were quite surprised when they heard it was owned by such a big international company like Cineworld. It has got that
second biggest feel. Multinational in the world.
Biggest. Wow.
So Picturehouse was, this chain of cinemas when Fact first opened, and Picturehouse became its, it runs the cinema screens, and then Fact itself runs the exhibitions, which as well as being in Liverpool, of course, tour all over the world. But it was bought out by Cineworld in 2012. Do
you think it will reopen?
Cineworld say that it's closing temporarily, indefinitely, but temporarily, and they're waiting on, a lineup of films from the distributors. So this was really triggered by the postponement of the James Bond from November. So they were all kind of holding out. I think a lot of the big chains were holding out for the James Bond movie to open in November, and that would save their cinemas. And then when on Friday they announced that was going to be postponed till April, I think it is. I think it was I think people could see the writing on the wall then, among the big chains. So Odeon, I think, have now made the decision just to open weekends only. Cineworld are closing all their Cineworld and Picturehouse cinemas right across the UK. So that's potentially 5,500 jobs at risk.
Nicola, is there any scope for Liverpool to take ownership, or for Fact to put an offer in to Cineworld and take this back and reclaim it for Liverpool and for Fact?
I do it in a heartbeat. I mean, I made them an offer last year, but they didn't want to go, and I understand that. It's ultimately it's Cineworld's decision as to whether they would let one of their branches go. I think it's really unlikely. I'd love to do it, but I think it's really unlikely, and I just wish they'd stay open. I just wish they'd find a way to stay open. I think there's an audience for the sort of varied Picturehouse offer that they have here. So much more of the independent films and international films. There could be a really good offer, I think, and I think Liverpool audiences would really respond to it. As we've seen, whoever's running it, doesn't really matter who's running it, as long as we're offering a really fantastic film cultural offer.
Okay, well, listen, fingers crossed. They either reopen soon, but we're sending love to all the gang at Picturehouse this week. Certainly.
Yeah, they're amazing, and they're just a great team to work with, and they're behaving with such fantastic dignity. So, yeah, please, I just say to everyone, please come and support them until Thursday while they're still open, and as soon as they reopen.
Yeah, which it will do. Fingers crossed. Fact, away from the Picturehouse, there's some incredible things. Year-long exhibitions, some new exhibitions. You've got the augmented empathy exhibition, which looks really exciting, running right now. Tell us what FACT is away from the Picturehouse.
So we're probably the UK's leading art and film organisation that specialises in new technologies and digital culture. And so as well as having the year's programme that we have in the exhibition spaces here, we also tour exhibitions all over the world and nationally. In fact, I would say that FACT as a contemporary new media arts organisation is better known internationally than it is in Liverpool, where we're known as your lovely local cinema where you can take your drinks into the auditorium. So that's what FACT does. And we also have a big learning programme. So we work with schools and we work with young people in youth clubs around, particularly around Toxteth. And we have our over 60s group, our digital ambassadors. And we also have a programme with prisoners. And we've kept most of those programmes running through lockdown. It's been so nice to open the building. And so my first exhibition that I've curated for FACT was due to open in March, and it finally opened in August. It's called And Say the Animal Responded, and it's all about the animal voice and centering the non-human animals' voice in the world and perspective on the world. And I guess what's interesting is that it has a very different frame now coming out of lockdown, that we're more aware that pandemics can be released by intervening in nature and intervening in the animal world. And a lot of the kind of major pandemics have been released in that way. And also we've seen what happens when the world quiets a bit, that the animals do come back into our cities, and we've heard more dawn chorus. And like, I went down for a walk on the Mersey River in the middle of lockdown and saw harbour porpoises.
Wow.
I mean, wow. Which then they came up river because the river was quiet, so they could hear to hunt.
That's incredible.
And so I think, so I think this exhibition has a different layer of meaning to it now than it may have had if it had opened in March, which was the original idea.
But you are open again, and you said off camera before, you've got lots of people in today visiting. We can still come and visit FACT within our household, obviously face covering, lots and lots of measures in place at FACT. Just tell us about how you've become COVID secure.
So people have been saying that we feel an incredibly safe building to come into. Obviously there's the please wear a mask. In fact, it's law now to wear a mask, so everyone's masked up in the building. We have hand sanitizers on every floor, very easily available if you can't get in and wash your hands, but we'll ask you to sanitize your hands. We're implementing track and trace, and in the cinemas they've obviously been doing social distancing, so you don't sit directly next to the next person in the cinema. There's a space between you and the next group. And then in the exhibition itself, we reconfigured the whole exhibition so that it was touch-free. So we do a lot of kind of immersive interactive artwork at FACT, but a lot of that involved headsets or virtual reality sets or touch screen. That's all had to go, and everything is now triggered by movement or QR code. So you'll trigger the sound as you walk up to the installation now, or you can scan a QR code and get your audio guide or information. So you're not having to touch anything that would have to be disinfected over and over again.
You've worked in culture for many, many years, Nicola. You started at FACT a couple of years ago, am I right in saying that?
I started, nearly 18 months ago. So May 2019, I came into FACT.
So you've had many years before that working at culture and arts venues across the country. In your words, how can we save culture in the UK, and how can we evolve now post-COVID?
That's a huge question. I don't have an easy answer there isn't an easy answer for it. But what's been interesting about working with FACT, which is a great organisation, and I'm so happy I came here, even if it's been a bit mad lately, is that somehow in the crisis, it's triggered a lot of innovation and resourcefulness, and rethinking things and recreating things, how we interact with our communities, what that means to them, how we represent things, how we do things in a safer way, how we do things in a more socially distanced way. What it's also made me realize is how the social aspect of art is so important, that all the online stuff was great, but the online stuff that worked best was because it was bringing people together. And the fact that people have really come back into the building to experience artwork in the way they have shows that it's a really sensory experience. It's a really social experience. People come with their families, they come with their kids, they come with friends, hopefully within their bubbles these days. But that's an important, vital function of art. And we're going to have to rethink a lot about how we, the demands on us to have lots and lots and lots and lots of people and make lots of money in different ways. All those things are going to be much harder to do, and maybe they're not the really important things. Maybe it's not about having loads of people come and experience things tightly together, but it's about the quality of that experience and the quality of that engagement. So there's just an awful lot to think about, and I can't possibly claim to have the answers. Just know that the best people to be tackling them are artists and creative practitioners, because they're the ones who know how to make this art. And yeah, we need to find a different way of supporting artists as well. I think that's the really important thing to come out of this, is that there's a lot of taking for granted of artists. There's a whole industry built up upon artists' labour and upon artists' creativity, and I don't think they've been well looked after during lockdown at all.
What's next for Fact, Nicola? What's your dream scenario 2021? Where would you like to see the venue be?
I'd like a really active exhibition offer. Of course, I would love to have a full and thriving film programme here. Whoever is running that, I would like to see the cafe open, and we're definitely making strides towards reopening the cafe. I want a bar. I want Fact to be out in the city. I'd like to be doing cinema out in the city. Yeah, really building our role across the city and across the region, and enabling as many people as possible to take part in film art and creative technology activities.
Okay, you couldn't have answered that any better, and I'd love to see all of that happen, and I'm sure under your rule that will happen, Nicola. Finally, just one last message to all the team at Picturehouse, and that you're saying goodbye to for now this week.
For now, hopefully we'll see them very soon.
Okay, Nicola, thank you very much. Really appreciate your time. And
cheers, Jay.
Visit Fact soon.
Thanks. Come and see us.